Everybody has been asking me to review these, the Takomo irons. Now this might be one of the only honest reviews of these irons that exist in the world. One time. Oh! Now I'm saying that with a bit of tongue in cheek. There are some really good reviews of these irons already out there. The reason why I say one of the honest reviews is because Takomo have used a very interesting strategy which I highly rate. They have signed and partnered with a lot of YouTubers, influencers in the golf space, such as the Brian Bros, Luke Kwan, Claire Hogle, Takomo Golf, and many, many more. And that is a good strategy because let's be honest, as an up and coming brand like Takomo are, they're not going to go out and sign a tour pro, albeit to be fair, they've signed Wesley Bryant, who is pretty much a tour pro. They're not going to go out and sign a huge big name in the world of golf. So to get more eyeballs on their product, they have partnered with YouTubers, etc., because that's an easy way of getting eyeballs. And I'll be honest, out of all the brands, new brands, this one genuinely is the most requested out of any brand I've thought of in the last probably 10 years of making YouTube content. So in this video, I'm going to review 3 sets, which are the popular sets. So in my hand right now, I've got the 301 CB, which is the cavity back. I've got the Blade, which is the 301 MB, and then the Takomo 101. I'll come into a little bit more detail about each club specifically in a moment. But let's talk about Takomo Golf first. The owner and creator of Takomo, Sebastian Hopper-Hovey, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, believes that golf should be for everyone. Yes, I'm a full believer of that. Golf should be for everyone. And in closer investigation, couldn't understand when you're making a set of golf clubs, it's fairly cheap. Like to build that, it's not super expensive. So why were people paying really high premium price for clubs when actually the cost of it isn't that much? So why sell it for that? Sell it for a lot of money. That's why these irons are very reasonably priced. I'll come on to where I maybe slightly disagree with that in a minute. I'll come on to that later on in the video. Right. Let's get going, let's get hitting. Now, I have taken these clubs out on the golf course before, so this isn't my first ever hit of these irons. We'll come on to all the on-course tests in a minute, but I'm just going to hit the 7 iron with the 301 CB because I want to give you this live reaction of how they feel. That is right down it. Go a little tiny bit. Now, spoiler alert. These irons feel phenomenal. They do. And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting it because, again, going back to this point at the start, a lot of the feedback I've heard about these clubs are from YouTubers and influencers who are signed with this brand. So guess what? Of course they're going to say they're nice. Of course they're going to say they're amazing. And I needed to hit them myself to really understand if that was the truth. And it is. They feel fantastic, like really, really good, and they look superb. Now the 301s, the CBs, are my personal favourite. This kind of cavity back, really nice design, very, very sleek. You've just got the Takomo logo on the high toe of it. Very simple 301 CB. The colour of it is nice, the shape of it, the cut, like the detailing is very precise. This doesn't feel like a budget brand. The 301 MB, the bladed, is a player's muscle back, all about feel and workability, and it's forged iron made from a single billet of carbon steel. And then finally, the 101s. These are forgiveness and distance inspired irons, game improvement for mid to high handicappers, and it's a hollow head design for maximum forgiveness, yet still somewhat of a classic blade look. Price wise, like these, the CBs and the MBs, for 4 to pitching wedge is £650. Like that's hundreds of pounds cheaper than a set just like this from TaylorMade or a set like this from Callaway, etc. The Takomo 101s, which are the more forgiving model, are actually even cheaper still. They're £499 for 40 pitching wedge. Like, I'm impressed with that. That, in my opinion, is the price of irons should be. Like, we don't have to go back that far, probably 5 or 6 years ago, when a brand new set of TaylorMades were costing you that. So it's nice that there needs to be a brand in this space. Because like I say, you've got things like Kirkland Signature that are much cheaper. And you've got, you know, some of the really, really expensive brands. Like, was it Callaway recently brought out a set that was over £2,000 for a set. Like, you need this kind of middle, you know, £500, £600 for a set is really important. Let's talk about on the golf course first before we do a bit more testing. Started things off with hitting the 4 irons. So I hit the CB, then I moved into the 101, which is the more forgiving model, then the MB. And I was very, very impressed. I really was. For the first shots I hit with those clubs with a 4 iron, I was very impressed. And more importantly, each club, or even though they're all 4 irons, felt like they flew very differently. Like for me, the CB had a very medium flight. It was forgiving enough, but not super forgiving. The 101 had a stronger ball flight, like came out more like a 3 iron or a 2 iron. It's a little bit stronger in loft, granted, but it felt fantastic still. Where the MB, the blade, definitely had a little bit less forgiveness, but strike-wise, when you hit out the middle, felt awesome. I did thin one, which definitely hurt my hands a little bit. And then moving into 7 irons, I got this beautiful par 3 up the hill that I hit some 7 iron shots into. Now, I'll be honest, this set of shots that I hit into this par 3 were some of the most consistent golf shots I have ever hit on a test across all 3 irons. I think I missed the green once by like a yard or 2 yards. The majority of the shots were pin high, flying really nicely. Again, like the 4 irons, they've all got slightly different flight characteristics. The CB is kind of a medium flight. The 101s is definitely a stronger, hotter flight, and the MB just is more like a blade. It performs like a blade. You can be a little bit more manipulative with it. Strike-wise was excellent. Turf interaction, very impressed. And then I moved on to the pitching wedges. I hit some little bump and run shots first on that little par 3, and these were the results. Like, as you can see here, I probably hit 2 that weren't my best. Then I hit some shots with the full pitching wedges into a green. Probably not as close to the pin as I was with the 7 irons, weirdly enough, but that might be more on me. But again, flight-wise, good. There was definitely a separator in distance. The 101 definitely went further. The MB went shorter, as you'd expect, because the loft is slightly different. In fact, on the pitching wedge, the loft is the biggest separator. So in the CB and the MB, the loft is 47 degrees, where the 101 is 44 degrees. So it's like 3 degrees stronger. So it's probably going to go like 9 or 10 yards further. Now, what I was excited about then is coming back here in the HIT studio, getting them on GC Quad, actually getting some data. So let's hit all the clubs and let's come back with all the data from all 3 models. That is the one. One time. Oh! I have never, ever, ever held a shot in testing with a 7 iron. Finally. I like these clubs. Okay, before diving into the data, well, two things. First off, how good was that hole out? I've not had one of those on a review, I don't think ever. So that was pretty awesome. And also, really give credit to the feel of these irons. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed testing every single one of the irons. Like, I think they feel and look brilliant, they really do. They're ticking a lot of boxes, to be honest. I'll come on to one factor in a minute. But let's talk about 4-irons first. As you'd expect, the CB and MB are almost exactly the same distance. 204 yards of carry distance, almost identical spin numbers, almost identical ball speed, because they are the same loft at 23 degrees for the 4-irons. The 101s jumps a little bit further, 5 yards further, a little bit lower on the spin rate, a little bit higher on the ball speed, but also the 4-iron is 4 degrees stronger. So it's kind of what you'd expect. They all felt good, all feel good. Flight-wise, the 101s definitely came out a little bit hotter. You can see that from the graph, but yet the CB and MBs were so similar. And I think that's going to be a story across all of the irons. Okay, and then in the pitching wedges, again, we see kind of a similar story. A tiny little bit of a deficit just between the MB and the CB, but that could be down to strike a little bit. There's 4 yards of difference there. The CB was carrying at 129. I normally like to carry a pitching wedge 130 yards. That's pretty much bob on. The MB was carrying a little bit further, actually, 132. I think I pulled one that just went a little bit further. And then the 101, which is again the stronger lofted, interesting actually. I did hit a couple that went longer, but then I hit a couple that went shorter. So actually the standard deviation of 4, which is the number below the 131, that's maybe just indicating that little bit of sometimes you get a hotter one, sometimes it doesn't come out quite as hot. But again, pretty standard numbers. Spin rates are very decent for a pitching wedge. Again, tick, tick, tick. And then we come on to the 7-irons, the magical MB 7-iron that I managed to hold my shot. Love that. Am I classing it as a hole-in-one? Of course I'm not. MB and CB, again, very similar. 167 yards of carry versus 165, very similar. Spin rates, again, exactly the same. 6,400, again, pretty strong for a 7-iron, to be honest. The 101 did go further. It went 10 yards further, in fact. But again, it's stronger lofted. It's 4 degrees stronger lofted. And then the spin rate comes down, the ball speed goes up a little bit, and you get just a different trajectory. You can see that from the kind of coloured lines. If you look at the orange one, it comes out lower and just penetrates more, and then therefore goes a bit further. I like them. I like them a lot. There's one factor though. Sebastian mentioned it about this idea that he wants the golf game to be accessible for everyone. Tick, 100%. And he realised that you can make clubs for less money and sell them for less money. I get that, I do. However, I think one thing that is kind of maybe undervalued is the fact that a lot of these premium brands, your TaylorMade, your Callaways, your Ping, your Titleist, are the pioneers of R&D and development. They've put in so much time and effort to create what look like irons now. Takomo haven't done that. That's other brands doing that. And then someone like a Takomo or a Kirkland Signature or any of these other brands that are, let's be honest, being inspired by these designs from other brands, creating their own copy. Therefore, they're selling them for less because they can make them for less. And they don't sponsor Tour Pro. So it's tough. You wouldn't have clubs that look like this if you didn't have those pioneering brands. It's up to you whether you want to buy these, the more expensive ones. It's totally down to you, as you know. But these are worth checking out. And from my good friends in the YouTuber world and influencer world, they have been fair in their assessment of these irons. They are very, very good. We'll see you next time.